Since the game's launch in 2017, Fortnite has seen a lot of guns, items, healings, and just all these items in general be released into the game. And of course, over that time, we've had 5 chapters with 50 plus seasons, many different themes, many different people that we play the game with, and so on and so forth. And now, it's kind of at a standstill. A lot of content is dry because the game just is not fun right now. Well, we should take that back because Chapter 5 Season 3 is what is not fun because the changes into that were just horrible. It was just horrible. As I talked about in the last video, we got countless nerfs, guns that were taken out that didn't need to be taken out, though we did get the combat AR, that was a W, and just all around a boring map change as it was just a desert. We don't want that, we don't need it, and especially for no builds, people really did not want it. But with that, it had me thinking about whether there were items that were genuinely hated, and oh yeah, there were. So if you are new to the game or not, a lot of these items you might have had your hands on, and honestly, a lot of them were useless. Some of them were just flat out hated. But today, we're gonna look at the top 5 Fortnite items that were hated by the community. Starting off with a fresh honorable mention, I'm gonna go with the cars because they are annoying. The different attachments that you could put onto it, the different modifications you have with it are just unnecessary. While they are fun, you can have some fun with it, they're just nerfed to oblivion. They nerfed Nitro, they nerfed everything, and just the cars are pointless at this point. While you can do some nice things where you can shoot grenades and shoot them down, unless you're one of the skilled players that has no worries about their aim, it's not going to be worth it for you. It's just not. That's why I couldn't go with this video without at least including them in some form or another, because I know people hated them when they came out, people hated them when they got nerfed, people still hate them now. There's just no going about it. Now let's get into the real top 5. Starting off at number 5 is one of the easiest ones I could have put on this list. It is the 6 shooter. Now, if you're skilled, again, some of these items you may love. Some of them, if you're not skilled like myself, you're going to hate, and the 6 shooter is undoubtedly one of them. For those of you that were poor enough to use the item in the game, it's just not a fun gun. It only has 6 rounds. You really have to hit your shots. It does 30 something damage, and it's just not enjoyable to play with. Meanwhile, if you were one of the few like myself that played Fortnite Creative and played Nuketown, which fire map, it was the hardest gun to get off of, including the bow that you have to get out at the end. The 6 shooter was always the worst one. And I think for a lot of people, if you saw this gun, you would go out of your way to either not use it, either drop it, or just damn exclude it because nobody wanted it. And thankfully, it hasn't been back in the game in a while, and when it has been, nobody's used it. And that's really soothing to me. At number 4, we have the Kinetic Boomerang. In Chapter 4, we got a lot of the kinetic items like the hammer and the sword, which were my personal favorites, especially the sword, as you were able to just fly around the map because that reload time, oh, that refresh time was good. But the Kinetic Boomerang, on the other hand, was just kind of an item that people were just able to throw around, get some damage up, and, you know, just not that good in general. It was something that if you had the skill to hit people with it and take them out, it was fun, it was something new, it was better than using a gun, but compared to the hammer and the blade, it just wasn't practical. Now, of course, there were guns that weren't as good either, but when it came to using the blade, again, compared to the others, this was a dud. It really was a dud. Coming in hot at number 3 is the flame bow. While the bows were able to do damage, of course, we had the impulse, we had the stink bow, we had the flame bow, which was if you were going up against wood, you could set things on fire. And that's really as far as that goes. While the bows were already incredibly hard to use and get damage and get kills, the flame bows offered a little bit extra flair when it came to doing damage to your opponent because all they had to do was either destroy the building or just move out of the way because it really wasn't doing anything. And again, the bows were hard to aim, whether you were up close or whether you were far away, it just wasn't that good. Even headshots itself weren't that good. And a lot of the community also really liked the impulse bows because they used them as impulse grenades, which were really nice, and especially considering that it came from the primal season in Chapter 2, which a lot of people don't want to talk about, except myself. I did enjoy that season a little bit, but I'm not even going to go there right now. I know people are going to get mad about that. It was just a horrible item where you were not picking it up. You weren't even picking up the stink bow. You can put that in here with it as well. But if you were somebody that liked it, I would love to know how you used it because I was not killing anybody with it. Just never was, never going to. At number 2, we honestly have its cousin, as it was the Firefly Jar. This was literally just to set fire. That's literally all it was. The only good it was for was setting up a wood tower or building on fire. You could just throw it on the walls so they disintegrate and they fall down to their death. But if you're coming up against anybody with that even at least a little IQ, they were going to be able to build down and make their way down safely, and they would just do a 360 dance on your body and then you would die before you can even get a shot off. You actually might kiss a wall doing that. You might kiss a wall that's on fire. That's how good those players were going to be. But the Firefly Jar really didn't do anything. They kind of just were there setting things on fire. Like, you're not picking that up. You're just not. You're not picking it up. And if you were doing damage with that, it was with people that were already down because they were moving a mile per hour and they weren't going to get out of that radius of fire that was burning around them. That was literally the only way they were going out. Two of the honorable mentions that I want to include here that I didn't think about until after developing the list. We have Thanos' glove, because that was just a mosh to get to. You were just fighting everybody in the lobby to get to them. And when you got it, you better have been good, or you better have gotten out of there, because you were not making it out of there with more than 2 minutes on the game. It was just obliterating everybody. There was no chance of you surviving with it. And honestly, I would bring it back. I'd bring it back for the next season when the rumored Marvel collab drops, because come on, let's just bring it back one more time. And the other honorable mention is the Infinity Sword. I feel like that speaks for itself. That thing was a one-hit KO machine, and it was so hard to get. If you got it, you were just like, you literally didn't stand it. You had to win the game. I don't think people understand that if you had that thing, that was pretty much an auto win, unless you had zero IQ of what you were doing, or maybe just had no idea where you were. That thing was insane. I will die on that hill. I'd rather bring the Thanos gloves back over that, the Infinity Blade. I'd rather not have the Infinity Blade back. At number 1, we have the most hated addition to the game, and it's not even a question. If you're around in chapter 1 for it, you're gonna validate this feeling in the comments. I already know you are. We have the Brute/Mechs. These 2-player machines were just not fair. They were not fun. You literally just had to get in one. You can fire missiles at each other, jump on them, do whatever you needed to do, and it was just wraps after that. There was just no point in even trying. Introduced in Season X of Chapter 1, which is the last season before the first map change, people made it know that this machine was not wanted. It was a living, breathing nightmare for people because it had insane health. It was operated by 2 people, one to include the walking and one to include the actual fighting, and I don't want to think about it. I really do not. It had an HP of 1250 and was doing 50 damage by stomp, missile, and shotgun. And when it self-destructed, it did 100. So if you self-destructed it by somebody that didn't have shield, they're gone. They're gone. This thing was just something that didn't want to be messed with. People were just hopping on other people, detonating the mech. It just wasn't a fun time. It was rightfully so still one of the, if not the most hated item in Fortnite, and I don't think they'll ever top that unless they bring it back, which they probably will for some throwback season. Honestly, Chapter 2 OG, maybe. I don't remember if it was in there at some point, but you never know. Never know what they're gonna do next. Let me know your thoughts though, if there were anything on this list that should not have been on this list, or which ones I validated your hate for, because I know there's a few of you out there that didn't want to hear any of that. Again, relive those nightmares, but I'm sorry that I did it. And if there was anything that wasn't included on the list that you think should have been, let me know in the comments, because I'm curious of the stuff that I might have missed back in the very beginnings of Fortnite, or maybe in the middle that kind of just fizzled out like in the Primal season. Let me know in the comments. But until next time, I'll be waiting you all for the next video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.